On this episode of China Uncensored, would China fight for North Korea in a war? I hope we'll never find out. In China, coffee lovers actually like Starbucks. What? And finally, it's getting cold in here, so put on all your clothes. This is China Uncensored. Hi, welcome to China Uncensored. I'm your host, Chris Chappell. If the U.S. goes to war with North Korea, which nation would China back? Well, it's not so clear. The United States and South Korea held annual Air Force drills over the Korean Peninsula this week. More than 200 planes were involved. North Korea did not take that so well. State media accused the U.S. of reckless nuclear war mania. Right, the U.S., not the country whose leader poses in front of nuclear warheads. And meanwhile, China's People's Liberation Army held its own Air Force drills in new areas near the Korean Peninsula. According to a Beijing-based military expert, Li Jie, the PLA's goal was to send a message to the United States. The timing of this high-profile announcement by the PLA is also a warning to Washington and Seoul not to provoke Pyongyang any further. So does this mean that China is warning the U.S. that in the event of a war with North Korea, China will back North Korea? Okay, they're probably just posturing. Let's hope we'll never find out for sure. But in the event of nuclear war, the Chinese regime wants people in northern China to be prepared. In a Chinese province bordering North Korea, state-run media ran a helpful cartoon educating people on what to expect when you're expecting a nuclear holocaust. For no reason in particular, really, just general knowledge that everyone should know. See, it's called general knowledge about nuclear weapons and protection. For instance, did you know that in the event of a nuclear attack, you should close your doors and windows and hide under a table? Be sure to scrub yourself thoroughly to wash off that radiation, and don't forget to clean your ears. You never want to forget to clean your ears. It reminds me of the good old days of duck and cover in the U.S. Though you may laugh at some of these suggestions, this is the first time ever the Chinese regime has acknowledged that people in China might actually be affected by nuclear conflict on the Korean Peninsula. Moving on to another region prone to conflict, the Chinese regime has responded to U.S. President Trump acknowledging Jerusalem as the capital of Israel.
We are concerned that the move could sharpen regional conflicts. The status of Jerusalem is complicated and sensitive.
Israel is a bit of a thorny issue, but China has made no secret of its ambitions to be the one to solve the Israel-Palestine issue. Or at least continue to play each side against the other so it can do more business with Israel while still supporting its old comrade in arms, the Palestinian Authority. But depending on your point of view, President Trump has just taken one giant step towards solving it or making it unsolvable. Either way, that's the U.S. showing it's the global power, not China. Speaking of things boiling over, Starbucks has opened its first international coffee roaster and largest store in the world right here in Shanghai. It's 30,000 square feet big. You know, I never realized how creepy the original Starbucks logo is. Even Jack Ma showed up for the grand opening.
I don't like coffee, but I like Starbucks.
Wow, Jack Ma and I have the exact opposite opinion. I have to say, if ever there were a reason not to be jealous of China's rise, it would be having the world's biggest Starbucks. In fact, I'd rather drink shredded jellyfish, which is actually the latest project of China's People's Liberation Army. The waters off China's coasts are home to a lot of jellyfish, thanks to massive pollution. And that's a problem for the PLA Navy. The jellyfish, not the pollution. Swarms of jellyfish get sucked into ships' engines and can bring them to a halt. So, the PLA has developed a high-tech new weapon in the war against Poseidon, called the Jellyfish Shredder. It's basically a big net with a bunch of knives. The only problem is, it kind of shreds anything else that might be in the water. I think I know where China ripped off this idea from.
I call it the Burns Omni-Net. It sweeps the sea clean.
It's wintertime in China, so stay warm. Unless you need to burn coal to stay warm, in which case, see you in the detention center. No, I mean literally. This propaganda slogan has been popping up around China. It says, if you burn coal, see you in the detention center. China's authorities are clamping down on coal burning, hoping it will stop the annual airpocalypse that plagues the country. What that means, though, is that millions of people will have to face sub-zero temperatures with nothing more than a coat. Now that is cold. Students are being forced to hold classes outside in the winter sun because the schools are too cold inside. Local authorities were supposed to transition everyone in the rural areas over to natural gas before the deadly cold winter hit. But there were setbacks laying pipes, and the sudden demand for natural gas created huge shortages. So it would sure be a shame if, I don't know, a large number of people were suddenly forced out onto the streets. And we'll have more on that after the break. We may not have coal, but we're leaving a light on for you over at ChinaUncensored.tv. It's our website where every Friday you can watch full half-hour episodes you can't see anywhere else. It's a laugh riot, so bring the tear gas.